Arnold Levine, thank you for being here today with me. You are one of our milliners in the Costume Industry Coalition. I am really excited to chat with you about your, place in the ecosystem of the costume industry as a milliner. So let's start first. I would love to know how you got into this business. From what I hear, you actually started as a designer. Am I correct?
Yes. I went to Carnegie Mellon. I started out as a costume designer. My first job was in the Midwest at Western Illinois University. From the 7 years that I worked there, we have probably 15 people who are actually working in the national costume industry. So that's a touch of brag. I'm very proud of that. I had gotten tenure by the time I had left, and I wasn't 30 yet, and that was freaky. So I decided, okay, it's time to get out into the world a little bit more. And I started designing regional theater, and then each move kind of brought me closer to New York. So I was doing a lot of designing all over the country. And I met someone, and it was time to move to New York, and I did. And I got a call from a very good friend of mine that I had gone to college with. And she said, "What do you know about millinery?" She said, "I'm working at New York City Ballet. They need a milliner for some of the weird stuff. Come up here." And I said, "I'm not a milliner." And she said, "Come up here, meet them, talk to them." Well, the head of the costume shop at New York City Ballet, Ben Benson, was designing Cinderella for Chicago City Ballet. And there were all these things that were not normal millinery. And he said, "Sure, come on in, come work on this stuff." They hired me to do that, and they they put me at the table with their milliner. She made exquisite little tiaras and beaded flowers and did all this beautiful, what we think of as ballet millinery. And I'm turning out big old felt hats with big old plastic growths coming off of them. And she kept looking at me and watching me work. And I'm thinking, she is horrified. She is going to say something one of these days and my brain will explode. No, she eventually said to me, "I've never seen anybody work that fast." While I was at the ballet, I met Patricia Ziprod, and I met Florence Klotz, and I met some other designers. And one of the things that Florence had said to me is, "If you ever leave here and you want to work in the design world, give me a call." As things turned out, there was a big upheaval in the shop. I did end up leaving. I called Florence, and she put me to work on a Broadway show. I mean, I assisted on, I believe, 5 Broadway shows.
Okay.
And assisted on a couple of ballets and dance pieces for both Patricia Ziprod and Florence Klotz. And I
Yeah.
happened to, well, because I was working for City Ballet at that moment, gone to a get-together sponsored by Vern Yates and Ernie Smith. And so a couple days after that, he's sitting in the office of the head of New York City Opera costume shop. And as we do, he's looking at things on somebody else's desk. And he comes across my resume and says, "I just met this guy last night." They were getting ready to do a production of Tosca. And to the shop, "Why don't we actually hire a milliner and get the hats really made according to the designs?" Okay, good idea. So he called me. They asked me to work on Tosca. I ended up doing a number of other shows for City Opera. And one of the deals that we worked out with them is they found me a place to work. For one of the shows, they got me a place through Grace Costumes. Often jokingly said, I have a fairy godmother and she's 2 Sicilian women. Because Grace and Maria were really just lovely about, getting my career started. So they sort of gave me my first couple of clients.
That then launched your shop, right? You were
Yes,
because
my shop got to the point that I needed to go into a bigger space.
Tell me a little bit more about your shop now. How many employees did you have
I had
in
I
your shop?
I had 5 people at that point. One of them was part-time. I also had a couple of others that I pulled in when we got very busy. So it's basically 7 people. Right now, there are 2 of us working. But at least we've got some work to work on.
In terms of your client base, you create millinery work for theater, Broadway, theme parks, cruise ships, anyone who's asking, TV, film, like it runs the gamut, correct?
Correct.
I'm really interested to know sort of what your favorites are. You know, what has been your favorite project, or what is your favorite thing to create and build? I think that people don't necessarily know that millinery is not just hats. You know, it really can be anything that goes on the head. What are some of your favorites that you've worked on?
This is always such an interesting question because there are those things that you work on that everybody knows. It was, oh my gosh, you worked on that. And then there are the ones that, for whatever reason, did not do well that you worked on, that you are just so proud of some of the stuff that you did. In the early part of my career, it was joked that my studio did the happy dancing peasants in a show. If a character had a name, we did not do it. One of my favorite happy dancing choruses was for Dance of the Vampires that Anne Gould Ward designed. And there is stuff in there that I think is some of the most beautiful peasant stuff my shop has ever done. Kiss Me Kate that Marty Pakladinis designed is just, the stuff in there is just so beautiful.
Talk to me about this last year. How long were you closed?
But we closed, on March 12th, and then I think it was very late May or early June before we things eased up just a little bit, and we snuck in 4 of us to finish a few things that were in the studio. When the shop closed, we had orders from 3 Broadway shows. They were either running or almost finished. It was a piece here, a piece there. So it was a matter of just getting it done, getting it shipped to them. And then, as I said, 2 of us have been working now since the very end of January.
So last question, what is your outlook right now in terms of the future?
My ultimate outlook is I am optimistic. There are a lot of different things, a lot of different health issues to discuss. There's a lot of just how we work that is going to have to be modified. But more than that, I worry about the people who work for me. I feel an obligation to get them back to work. This is not easy on any of them. It's worrisome. But as I said, I am ultimately optimistic.